A lot of people listen to this, and if I go back just over 10 years in my life, I would have been sat listening to this conversation in £7,000 of debt. And I would have thought, God, like, becoming a millionaire, that's a million miles away. No pun intended. To become a millionaire, I'm going to have to earn so much more money. And at the time I was working in call centers, it would have just felt so far away. And I say, people are struggling to feed their children, let alone become a millionaire. Is it far away for the average person?
It's far away if you don't know the strategy. There's a strategy to getting out of debt. There's a strategy to building wealth. There's a system.
How much of it is just earning more money? Because when I have these conversations on my show, I think the surprisingly untouched territory is we don't teach people how to become more valuable so that they can earn more money. A lot of it's about like index funds or savings, whatever. But how much of it is just like, I need to get higher valued skills in the market?
We know for a fact that making more money doesn't make you rich. So people can go, as I told you earlier, like from $100,000, they can go from $50,000 to $100,000 and still be broke. They can go from $100,000 to $200,000 a year and still be broke. They can go from $200,000 to $300,000 and still be broke. In the US, when you take households that make $150,000 a year, 1 out of 3 of them are still broke. When you peel back the curtain and you ask, why is that? Well, we know things cost more, but we also know there's massive lifestyle creep, right? You get around other people who are making more money and then you spend more money. And the reality is these phones are designed to get you to spend everything, right? Today with the algorithms, there's better technology today than there's ever been to get you to spend more money. And nobody wants you to spend money once, they want you to spend money for a lifetime, right? It's the lifetime value of a customer. So there's a battle for our income. And everyone wants a piece of it. It starts with the government. Like you go to work and you go to work at 9 and you actually work from 9 o'clock to 12 for taxes. Now, this is an important lesson actually. The government doesn't ask you to budget to pay taxes. They take your taxes from you automatically. They take Social Security from you automatically. They take the money from you automatically because they know you won't have anything to give if they don't take it from you. Then people work from 12 to about 3 o'clock for housing and food, and then from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock for all the rest of the things. The people who build wealth in America and really all over the world, they do something different. They keep the first hour a day of their income.
What do you mean by that?
So what that means is whatever you earn, you could be making minimum wage. You could be making $20 an hour, $30 an hour, $40 an hour. Whatever you earn, the first hour day of your income has to go to you. You're the first person who gets paid.
And you mean you have to save it, invest it?
You have to invest it. So how do you invest the first hour of your day without paying taxes? The answer is you pay yourself first using a 401k plan. So if you have a job with a retirement account, 401k plan, you sign up and you use that plan. Now, I can't just stop right there, right? Because it sounds so simple, like, okay, I'll use my plan. No, you have to know the formula to using your plan to be rich. We know after 40 years now exactly what you need to do if you want to be a millionaire. I can tell you how to become a millionaire starting in your 20s so that you're done by the time you're in your mid-50s. You save 1 hour a day of your income is 12.5% of your gross revenue. I went online today to look at what's the latest statistics with 401k millionaires. The new stats that just came out from Fidelity. There are 654,000 people in Fidelity 401k plans that are now millionaires.
What is a 401k?
Okay.
Because, we've got a lot of global listeners.
Yeah.
There's different types of 401k in every country.
So in the US, a 401k plan is a retirement account. It is a retirement account that the company has set up, right? And it allows you to put money away, tax deductible. They call it pre-tax. In most countries, you have a deductible retirement account. But it depends on the country too, right? Like in Canada, it's a different type of plan than it is in Australia, than it is in Italy, than it is here in the UK. Almost every country though has some form of retirement account and has the ability to put money away automatically. Here's the problem. And I'll use the US specifically because it's where I do most of my work. In the US, those who have a 401k plan The ones that are millionaires, what they did, here's the formula. The exact formula, they saved 14% of their gross income. And their employer had a small match on top of that. And then how they invested the money is key, because it's not enough to just put money in these 401k plans. You have to be invested for growth. And growth means stocks, right? So you'd have to have, and the actual specific allocation in these 401k millionaires I just talked about was about 70% stock and 30% bonds. Okay, now what are people doing that aren't achieving this? Well, the average American saving maybe 3 or 4%, maybe 5%, if they have a 401k plan. People who don't have 401k plans, in many cases, aren't even doing this. They can open up an IRA account, but in most cases, they're not doing that. So the whole secret is not budgeting, not using discipline, having the money move right from your paycheck. Paycheck gets deposited automatically, and then it moves the day it hits your bank account automatically first for retirement. Then later we'll talk about building a security account, building a dream account. But the key is that the money moves automatically. So in the United States now, there's, by the way, 24 million millionaires now. So we've seen an increase of 8 million millionaires to 24 million millionaires in the US in just 20 years. How did they do that? There's two primary escalators to wealth. That is stocks and real estate. And if you're not in stocks and you're not in real estate, you are being left behind.
When you say real estate, does that mean having a mortgage and owning a home?
It's owning a home or owning REITs.
REITs,
real estate equity investment trusts. So that's another way to buy real estate without actually having to own the home, but you don't get the same level of returns.
I mean, this is one of the hot topics of conversation we've had on this show several times. Is many of my guests that are sort of financial advisors say that owning a home is a bad investment. I think from what I understood from the research and from reading your books that you feel differently about that.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't feel more differently. When we look at where is wealth created in the United States and also abroad, it's in two places. It's in home equity and it's in the stock market. So when you look at housing and you take someone who owns a home, and we'll talk about it, I know it's hard to buy homes right now, but when you look at people who own a home versus people who rent, homeowners in America, follow this for 1 second. Homeowners in America are worth 40 times more than renters. So the average homeowner in America today is worth over $400,000.
But this doesn't establish causation, i.e. that doesn't mean that buying a home made them rich, right?
It actually does, and I'm gonna go through that here. So the average renter is worth $10,000, right? So why does buying a home build wealth? And how much wealth in the United States is now in home equity? Wall Street Journal just ran an article on this, came out 2 days ago. There's $34 trillion now in home equity in America. This number has gone up 90% since before COVID. The other money is in retirement accounts, which is 60, 70% in stocks. There's $45 trillion now in retirement accounts. So those two things alone equal $80 trillion, right? Like when you want to go like, where are the breadcrumbs? Where's wealth being created? It's right in front of us. Now, the problem that we have in the United States, but also look, we're here in London right now. The problem we have in so many cities is that real estate keeps going higher and higher and higher. And people's incomes are not keeping pace with the cost of buying a home. So when someone comes on a show like this and says, look, you don't have to buy a home, it costs more to have a house than rent. I watched one of the shows. I won't say who it was. It doesn't matter. They all say the same thing. Don't buy a house. You'll be trapped. You'll have to pay real estate taxes, and you'll have to pay insurance, and things break. They go through all these expenses. And it makes it sound like, oh yeah, if I rent, it'll be cheaper. No, who do you think pays these expenses when you rent? You do. The landlord passes the cost of these expenses on to the renter ultimately. Why do they do this? Because people who buy real estate buy it for an investment. They buy it for an investment. They're They're not subsidizing these costs. So it's a hard thing to hear, and especially when you're young. Like I have a son who's 22, he's in Chicago. He's gonna move to New York City. It'll be extremely hard for him to buy a place in New York when he starts working right away. Just will be. He probably won't for 2 or 3 years. A lot of young people, when they move to a major city, they can't afford to buy right away. When I came out of college, like you, I was in credit card debt. I had $12,000 in credit card debt. I remember opening up my bills and having the room spin and thinking, I'm never getting out of credit card debt. How am I going to buy a house? But I did. And in fact, I didn't buy a home when I was young by myself. I bought a home with a best friend. So how did I get my first house? First house we bought was $250,000. We put 10% down, and my best friend and I, Andrew, we split that down payment. So we each put $12,500 down. This is how we scraped it together. The house was a complete fixer-upper, and we didn't have enough money to make the mortgage payments, so we rented out bedrooms. And we had friends rent bedrooms, and that helped us cover our mortgage. We scraped it together, and that's what a lot of people do when you're young. But if you don't get in the game of homeownership, and you rent in your 20s, and you rent in your 30s, you're gonna turn around in your 40s and having not built any net worth. When I wrote The Automatic Millionaire 20 years ago, 2 things have happened since then. The stock market has gone up in 20 years, 600%. Okay, so if you had $100,000, just that has gone to $600,000. If you bought a house, the house has gone up 400%. So when you read this book with all these, there's a whole chapter of updated success stories. There are a lot of ordinary people that started saving $5, $10, $15, $20 a day, bought a starter house, and today they're millionaires.
So am I not better off renting and investing in the stock market versus buying a house? Because obviously when I buy a house, I'm paying a premium on the house so that I can get a mortgage.
Well, I want to bust this myth, because what happens is people come on and they go, look, I can tell you right now, the stock market over the last 20 years has averaged over 10% annually. People go, the returns are better in the stock market than in real estate. Yeah, but that's not apples to apple comparison. Why? When you buy a piece of real estate, when you buy a home, people don't typically pay cash for their first house. They put down 20% and they borrow the other 80%. So you take like an example of take a $200,000 home. $200,000 home, you put 40 grand in. Home goes from 200,000 to 400,000 in 10 years. This has happened to so many people in the last 5 years. Since COVID, there are markets all over the US where housing prices have gone up 100 to 200%. So a person buys a $200,000 home, they borrowed 80%, it's doubled, so they've made $200,000 in profit. They didn't put in $200,000, they put in 40. So they got a 5 times return on their down payment. They go to sell their house, they don't pay taxes on the gain. Because when you own a home, at least in the United States, you own a home for over 2 years, if you're single, you get $250,000 in tax-free gains.